how to do authorizations at check-in and settle at checkout. So the first thing I'll show you with the Sage Payments interface is there is a permission in Room Key that would allow you to bypass the interface if you ever needed to. So under System Configuration and Clerks, you would locate the name of the clerk in the list and go to the Permissions tab. And over to the right, under System Configuration, Permission 1542 override CC processing. So if you were to give that permission to a clerk, it means that they could bypass the interface if they ever needed to. I would suggest only giving this permission to managers and supervisors because you don't want just anyone bypassing the interface. But you might have to some days if, say, there's something wrong with the Sage web service and you can't process credit cards, but you want to check guests out of room key. So being able to bypass the interface, you could check the guests out of room key, and then you could always manually process the cards on the Sage virtual terminal after the fact once it comes back online. So the procedure, I'm just going to show you how you do various functions in Room Key with the Sage Payments interface. So we'll start with check-in. So when you're checking in a guest, you go to your arrivals area. You click on the name of the guest you're checking in, and you swipe their card at this point. If you don't have a swiper, you just hit the check-in button. But if you have a swiper at this point, this is where you would swipe the card, and that'll begin the check-in process. When the check-in screen comes up, you'll see there's this box for available credit. So if you do take an additional amount above room and tax for incidentals, you would put that amount in this box here. So the interface automatically defaults to authorize for full room and tax for the entire stay. And let's say you just wanted an extra $25 for incidentals, then you just put $25 in available credit, and it'll authorize for full room and tax plus $25. Otherwise, if you just leave this at 0, it's going to just authorize for full room and tax. So once you get to this screen, you just go ahead and hit the check-in button, and that's when your Sage Payments interface pops up. So you'll see here it says the action is authorizing. There is a place to put in the 3-digit code in the back of the credit card, but it's not really necessary unless your processor gives you a discount for putting in that number. You don't really have to. So at this point, all you would do is go ahead and hit the post button, and that will give you your approval from Sage. You just hit close, and then the guest is checked in. Their card is authorized, and you can see that by going to Transactions, Authorized Transactions, and here's the authorization that we got from Sage. From here, you can settle this authorization from here. You wouldn't typically do it this way. The only reason you would use this settle button here is, so we've got an authorization for $119.98. Let's say the guest has a telephone charge for $5, so the bill exceeds $119.98. So when you go to check out the guest, you're getting a declined message. Well, you know you have $119.98, so you could come in here and you could settle this authorization, and then it would place a payment on the guest folio for this amount. And then you could try to collect the extra $5 like cash or something. But otherwise, you usually don't run into many issues if you're authorizing the card and increasing your authorizations as needed. But just to let you know, that settle button is there. The void button, what it does is it just goes ahead and voids a credit card. So let's say you have an authorization for a Visa and the guest decides they want to pay with MasterCard. So you could void the authorization on the Visa. Now, voiding the authorization, it does not release the funds any faster. It's still going to take 5 to 7 days for the bank to return the funds. So you just want to keep that in mind whenever you're voiding an authorization. So just to go over arrivals one more time. So again, we go to our arrivals area. We're going to click on the name of the guest we're checking in, and we're going to swipe their card. Again, when we swipe their card, it's going to bring up the check-in screen. Now, just something else I just wanted to point out here in the check-in screen. We have this disable online processing, this checkbox. This is the one that I talked about at the beginning, that if you check that box, it's going to bypass the interface. So unless you have that permission we talked about at the beginning, you won't be able to check this box. We also have override default credit. So again, the interface authorizes for full room and tax. So if you have a guest, say, checks in and they're like, oh, I've only got, can you just authorize $200 on my credit card and I'll give you the rest in cash? Well, what you can do is you can check this box here that says override default credit, enter $200 in available credit, and that's all the interface is going to authorize for, is just that $200. Okay? Otherwise, if we just have our normal check-in screen, again, it's going to authorize for full room and tax for the entire stay. So we just go ahead and hit check-in. Brings up our Sage Payments interface. We go ahead and hit post, get our approval, close, and that's it. The guest is checked in and their card has been authorized. Now, let's say you have a guest who's in-house and they want to extend their stay. So when you extend the stay, you have to increase the authorization on a credit card as well. It doesn't automatically increase when you, the authorization doesn't automatically increase when you extend the stay. You have to increase the authorization yourself. So let's say we have this guest here and they're in for one night and now they want to stay for two. So just to show you, the credit limit down here in the bottom right-hand corner is $119.98. This should reflect what you have as an authorization on the guest card. So if I go to Transactions, Authorized Transactions, there we go. My authorization is for $119.98. So this guest decides to stay one more night. My first step is to increase the stay by one night. And when I increase the stay, you're going to see that the credit limit down here is going to automatically increase as well to reflect that second night that you're adding. Okay, so let's hit Change Stay. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just extend my stay by one night. Okay, so after I hit the OK button, you're going to see down in the bottom right, my credit limit's increased. So now that my credit limit's increased, now I want to increase my authorization to match that. So I'm going to go to Transactions, and I have Guest Folio Credit Limit. So when I go to Guest Folio Credit Limit, you're going to see there's my credit limit. So it's already reflecting the new credit limit. So all I have to do at this point is hit Post. Brings up my Sage Payment interface, and what it's going to do is it's going to take my original authorization of $119.98 and it's going to increase it to $239.96. So it's going to increase it to cover what I need. So again, just go ahead and hit Post, get my approval. I can exit out of this box now, and again, if I go to Transactions, Authorized Transactions, I'll now see that my authorization is $239.96, which matches my credit limit. Now for a walk-in reservation, when you're doing a walk-in, you go ahead and hit the walk-in button, and we're just going to create our booking. We're just going to put it in for one night. Now with a walk-in reservation, when you get to the guest info tab, you can swipe the guest card here. So if you swipe the guest card in this guest info screen, it is going to populate the payment method down below in the bottom right. So you don't have to come down here and pick Visa or MasterCard. Just swipe the card and it'll automatically populate correctly with the guest's information. I'm just going to pick a profile here so everything fills in. So with a walk-in, I just go ahead and hit OK to create the reservation. And you'll see at this point that my guest folio credit limit box pops up. So again, the credit limit's going to reflect full room and tax for the guest's entire stay. At this point, if I wanted to get anything for incidentals, like an extra $25 for incidentals, I would just put that amount to the right of the plus sign. So it would do $119.98 plus 25. Otherwise, just leave this at 0. When I hit the Post button, it's going to bring up my Sage Payments interface. Again, it's authorizing. There's the amount that it's authorizing for. I just go ahead and hit Post, and there's my approval. So just hit Close, and that's it. Exit, so my reservation. If I go to Transactions, Authorized Transactions, there's my authorization for this guest. Now, when it comes time to check out a guest, you always want to make sure you use the check out button to check out guests, because that's tied to the authorization you took at check-in. Don't use the post payment button to settle the bill and then check the guest out. The post payment button does a brand new settlement. So if I hit post payment, I'm going to charge the guest's card for $119.98, but I'm still holding my authorization that I took at check-in for $119.98. So it's like double the funds being held on their card. So when you're checking out a guest, make sure you use the check out button. So in this example, we'll check out this guest. So we'll just hit the checkout button. There's your checkout screen, shows the credit card that you have on file. There's the balance that is owing. So we just go ahead and hit checkout. Oh, sorry about that. Wait just 1 second here. Oh. So we'll hit checkout. Just go ahead and hit the checkout button. Your guest won't be leaving early, so you can ignore this message. And again, there is your Sage Payments interface. So you can see this time the action is check out. There's the amount that you want to settle. I'm just going to uncheck this print receipt box because I don't want a little receipt to print, but you may want to. And just go ahead and hit post, and there's your approved message. So after I hit close, there we go. The guest is successfully checked out. So if I just go to my checked out area and I just look at the guest that I just checked out, there's the payment on file. So if I right-click on this payment, there is a credit card info menu option. And you will see here that there's the authorization code that I got from Sage. So it shows the card type, the card number, as well as the authorization code. Now, if you have 2 guests in a room and they want to split the bill, so upon check-in, you can only authorize 1 card. You can't authorize 2 cards. So typically what you would do is whoever's the main guest name on the reservation, that's whose card you're authorizing. So that's the one you're swiping and getting the authorization for a check-in. Now the second guest card, you can store an extra card. So if I hit change stay, and I go to the guest info tab here, down the bottom right-hand corner I have extra cards. So if I click on this button here, I have the option to add a new card, and this is the only area where you can't swipe the guest card. So I'd actually pick the card type and enter the credit card number for the second guest. So it kind of just stores it in room key. When it comes time to check the guest out, what you're going to do is you're going to settle the extra card half first, because we want to use the checkout button for the card we got the authorization for a check-in. So this is the time where you would use post payment. So you have 2 ways of settling this bill. So you can hit post payment. You could go select from extra cards and select the guest's card, the second guest, and put in whatever amount they'll be paying for. If you do have the actual credit card and you can swipe it, that is ideal, because you usually get a discount from your processor if you swipe the card. So if you do have the card in front of you, you would use the payment code button, it drop down, and you would select the payment like type that they're giving you, so MasterCard. You'd put in the amount that they're paying for, and then you'd swipe the card. And when you swipe the card, it would then pick up the credit card information. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK and exit here. Again, there's my Sage Payments interface. I just hit post, get my approval. So that's one portion of the bill paid. And now I can hit my checkout button. And again, this is this Visa that's on file. And you can see now it's just going to settle for the balance. So I would just go ahead and hit checkout, get my Sage Payments interface, and then it would just settle that portion of the bill. So basically what the Sage Payments interface is, and any credit card interface in RoomKey, is you're just looking for that Sage Payments interface box. You want to make sure you get your approval on every single transaction that you do in RoomKey. If you don't get your approval, there could be something wrong. Maybe the interface isn't turned on in your computer, and then you should be speaking to your manager because they could check to see if the interface is turned on or not. Now, a few things I just want to point out about the way RoomKey works. Here you can see we have 2 guest profiles for Shane McPhail. Now, when I click on one, when I click on the other, you'll see down the bottom here, the credit card stays the same. That's because the credit card number is tied to the guest profile name. So if I change the credit card on one reservation, it's going to change on the other. So if you have 5 reservations under Shane McPhail, and you have to keep this in mind, if I come to check in and I'm like, oh, I'm with the Shane McPhail party, but I want to pay for my own room. Before you swipe my card, you want to change the reservation under my name. Because otherwise, if you leave it under Shane McPhail and then you swipe my credit card is going to go on all the Shane McPhail reservations. So just keep that in mind if you have several reservations under one person's name and each person is going to be paying for their own room. Now, as far as error messages with the Sage Payments interface, when you are posting a payment in Sage, if you get any error messages down here in the Sage box where you see approval, you would contact Sage about those errors, and they could let you know what it means. I do know they have one common error. It's called a credit violation error. It comes out like credit VOL 0.00. Sage has something in place. It's a credit restriction setting, and it doesn't allow you to do refunds first thing in the day, during the day. So being in the hotel business, we all know that refunds first thing in the morning are very possible. So you may want to give Sage Payments a call and just ask them about your credit restriction setting, and you might want to have that lifted. So if you start to see that error and it's becoming an issue, definitely speak to your Sage Payments representative. Now, as far as batching out at the end of the night, you do all your batching out in Sage Payments, but you always want to compare with RoomKey on a nightly basis to make sure the two systems match. Now, Sage, they do an auto batch out on their virtual terminal, so you would get an email with all your batch out information. So you'll want to contact Sage and just find out where that email goes to make sure it's going to the appropriate staff, so whoever's doing the batch out gets that information. And if you would prefer to do your batch out yourself instead of it auto batching, I believe that is an option with Sage, so you could just talk to your Sage representative and they could probably help you set that up. So as far as batching out, again, it's all done in Sage, but you want to compare with RoomKey. So the reports that you can use in RoomKey to compare with Sage are reports, financial, and we have our transaction register balance. So you can run a summary if you want. It'll just show a summarized version of all the charges, or you can do detail with guest name. You're going to run it for the day that you're batching out, and what you're doing is you're looking at the payment section. So we're looking, okay, we have $60 for MasterCard. In Sage, do we have $60 for MasterCard? Yeah, okay, great. If the two systems match, you're done. If the two systems don't match, what do you do? So what if you have a payment in RoomKey that's not in Sage? So how can that happen first? Well, the interface is turned on each computer individually. So under System Configuration and Property, you have an OLP tab for Online Processing. So this Online Processing Available box has to be checked in order for your Sage Payments interface to work. If that box is not checked, you can post payments in RoomKey, but they will not go through to Sage Payments. So that could be one way that transactions are not going through. So you always have to make sure that box is checked. So if you end up with a payment that's in RoomKey that is not in Sage, you have two ways you could resolve the issue. One, you could log into your Sage virtual terminal. If you have the guest credit card number, you can manually process the card in Sage. So it's already in RoomKey, you manually process it in Sage, the two systems now match. Another option would be so let's just say this payment right here, this Visa, did not go through to Sage. It's in RoomKey, but it's not in Sage. First thing I would do is I would right-click on the payment and I'd check the credit card info. And I'd check the credit card just to make sure it's the one I have on file. So Visa ending in 8291, Visa ending in 8291. Okay, it is the one I have on the guest profile. So step one, right-click and reverse, but you want to make sure you disable online processing. So the original payment did not go through to Sage. You don't want the reversal to go through to Sage. So by disable online processing, I'm just doing the reversal in RoomKey. So I hit OK, and the payment reverses. Now that I don't have a payment on the folio anymore, I can select Post Payment. And this time, I make sure my Sage Payments interface pops up, and this time I make sure I get my approval. So now the credit card is in RoomKey as well as in Sage. So another scenario is, what if you have a payment that's in Sage that is not in RoomKey? So how can that happen? Well, if you're posting a payment in RoomKey, and you hit OK and exit, and you get as far as the screen, and you hit Post. Well, as soon as you hit Post, you'll see you get your approval. So it's in Sage. It's done. But you'll see down below we don't have any payment for $1 on this folio just yet. That doesn't happen until I hit the Close button. So before I hit the Close button, what if you lose power? You lose your internet. Something happens to your computer. You get an error. So the payment went to Sage, but it never posted on the folio in RoomKey. So if that ever happens, what you would do is you would locate the folio in RoomKey. You would hit the Post Payment button. Again, make sure the last 4 digits of the card is the one that you have on file. And you would, again, disable online processing. The payment is already in Sage. You don't want it to go through a second time. You just need it in RoomKey. So you would disable online processing, put in the amount of the payment, and hit OK and exit. And when you do that, it's just going to post the payment in RoomKey. It's not going to push it through to Sage a second time. So that is your Sage Payments training. If you have any questions in the future, just feel free to reach out to our support team. You can also go to your Help menu in RoomKey, go to RoomKey Smart Support, and if you have any questions, you could just type it in to the Get Instant Answers here, and hopefully you'll find your answer that way. Thank you very much for your time.